There's a saying in the NFL that coaches always praise their opponents in press conferences. But when Andy Reid, head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, stepped up to the mic this week and started dropping compliments on Ravens defensive coordinator Zach, a lot of eyebrows went up in Baltimore, and not in a good way. What sounded on the surface like respect might have actually been something else entirely. Sarcasm, gamesmanship, or maybe just plain trolling. Because let's be honest, if you've watched the Ravens defense over the first 3 weeks of the season, you know things have been rough. Really rough. Andy Reid called Zach, a good one. He said, brings guys from all over and credited the Ravens for playing good, sound defense. Now, if you heard that without watching a single snap of Baltimore's season so far, you'd probably assume they were top 5 in every major defensive metric. But here's the thing. This Ravens defense is currently dead last in total yards allowed. Not middle of the pack, not below average. Last. 32nd in the league. That's not good, sound football. That's historically bad for a team that's built its identity on physical, bruising, defensive play for decades. The numbers don't lie. They're 24th in third down conversion percentage, which means they're struggling to get off the field when it matters most. In the red zone, things get even uglier. They're 28th, giving up touchdowns on almost 79% of their opponent's trips inside the 20. Pressure? Forget about it. They're 30th in pressure rate and tied for 30th in sacks. It's one of the least disruptive units in the NFL right now. And that's not even accounting for points allowed. Baltimore ranks 31st. The only thing keeping them from being rock bottom is the one team doing even worse. It's not pretty. So when Andy Reid goes on record saying nice things about a defense that's statistically falling apart, what's really going on? Is he being diplomatic? Is he trying to lull the Ravens into a false sense of security? Or maybe he's just having some fun, playing chess while the rest of us are still setting up the board. Either way, Ravens fans heard those quotes and immediately saw through the smoke. It's not praise, it's psychological warfare. Because here's the brutal truth. The Ravens' defense hasn't looked like a playoff-caliber unit. They've looked confused, passive, and most importantly, overwhelmed. Opponents are marching down the field with ease, and it's not just one area that's the problem. The pass defense is weak. The run defense is soft. The pressure is non-existent. It's an across-the-board failure, and no amount of polite sound bites from an opposing coach is going to hide that. And things aren't getting any easier this week. Baltimore's entire starting defensive line missed practice on Wednesday. Justin Mattibike? Out. Travis Jones? Out. Brent Urban? Also out. That's 3 starters on the shelf heading into a game against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. That's not just bad luck. That's a recipe for disaster. And if you think the Chiefs aren't ready to exploit that weakness, you haven't been paying attention. John Harbaugh gave a concerning update on Mattibike's status, and it wasn't exactly reassuring. He said, "I would say I'm concerned about it, but I'm not really in a position to comment on it right now." That's coach speak for. This might be worse than we're letting on. Neck injuries are serious, and Harbaugh made it clear that Mattibike has already been ruled out for Week 4. Beyond that, it's anybody's guess. Could be short-term, could be long-term, could be season-ending. We just don't know yet. And with Jones and Urban also missing time, the Ravens are dangerously thin up front. The only healthy defensive linemen currently on the active roster are journeyman veteran John Jenkins and rookie Rays at Nichols. That's it. That's the rotation. They've signed a couple guys to the practice squad, but those aren't game changers. They're bodies. Emergency fill-ins. So if the Ravens defense was struggling with their starters, what do we think is going to happen when backups and practice squad guys are the ones taking meaningful snaps against the reigning Super Bowl champions? It's not just the defensive line either. Kyle Van Noy is dealing with a hamstring injury. Ronnie Stanley still hasn't practiced. Patrick Ricard, one of their most versatile offensive players, hasn't seen the field this season. And the defense, already battered and bruised, hasn't shown signs of steady improvement. If anything, it's regressed. Let's go back to that game against Detroit. The Lions didn't just beat the Ravens. They physically dominated them. In the second half, Detroit's offensive line imposed their will. They double-teamed Jones into the dirt. They sealed the edge. They drove defenders backward in the run game. Roquan Smith got washed out of plays. Kyle Hamilton looked like he was stuck in quicksand. It felt like every other play was a 5 or 6-yard chunk on the ground. And when the Lions weren't running it, they were calmly picking apart Baltimore's soft coverages with quick throws. Zach, or the man Andy Reid so generously complimented, is facing serious heat in Baltimore right now. Fans are questioning his calls, his schemes, and his ability to adjust. When you've got rookies like David Ohabo dropping back into coverage on crucial third downs instead of rushing the passer, you have to wonder what the game plan is. It doesn't make sense. It hasn't made sense all season. Now throw in the challenge of facing Mahomes, who, let's be honest, has had Baltimore's number for years. The Ravens have only beaten the Chiefs once since Mahomes took over. And in that one win back in 2021, it took a forced fumble and some late-game heroics to pull it off. This is not a matchup the Ravens have historically controlled, and it's hard to imagine that changing this week. Not with the way the defense is playing. And that's where Andy Reid's comments start to feel less like compliments and more like trolling. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's boosting Zach Orr's ego in public while preparing to exploit his defense in private. It's classic misdirection. You hype up your opponent just enough to make them feel respected. Then you rip them apart on Sunday. The Ravens need to respond. They need to get back to basics. They need to find an identity on defense. Because right now, this unit is a shell of what fans expected coming into the season. There's still time to turn things around, but it's slipping away fast. For weeks in, and patterns are starting to form. This isn't just a rough patch, it's a trend. A bad one. And unless something changes drastically and immediately, this defense is going to be the reason the Ravens fall behind in the AFC. Mahomes doesn't need much time. Give him a clean pocket and some soft zones, and he'll take whatever he wants. If the Ravens can't get pressure without Mattabike and Jones, and if the blitz packages continue to miss the mark, we might be looking at another long afternoon for Baltimore's defense. While the Ravens' defense is clearly in survival mode heading into this pivotal Week 4 matchup, it's not just about who's missing. It's also about who's not performing. You look at the big-name players on this defense, guys who are supposed to be setting the tone, and a lot of them have been underwhelming. Roquan Smith, who was handed the keys to the middle of this defense and a big contract to go with it, has been up and down. Kyle Hamilton, usually a spark in the secondary, has had a few flashes but hasn't been the consistent playmaker fans were expecting. And then there's Marlon Humphrey, who's either not fully healthy or just hasn't found his groove yet. But either way, he's getting picked on more than usual. This is a Ravens team that was built to dominate defensively, not just survive. And yet, here we are, already discussing how to patch holes and mask weaknesses in Week 4. That's not where a team with Super Bowl aspirations is supposed to be, especially when the offense has shown enough flashes to compete. But no matter how much Lamar Jackson can do on the other side of the ball, it won't matter if the defense keeps giving up 30 points a game. You can't outscore everyone in this league, especially not against teams like Kansas City. The Ravens' struggles on defense aren't just physical. They're mental too. You can see the hesitation on tape. You can see players out of position, guys late to rotate, miscommunications in the secondary, blown assignments in zone coverage. The fundamentals are slipping, and the effort to correct those issues mid-game hasn't been there. And when that starts to happen, it's not just a scheme problem. It's a confidence problem. It's a culture problem. And confidence is going to be crucial when you're lining up across for Patrick Mahomes. Because Mahomes doesn't just beat you with arm talent. He beats you with patience, with discipline, with awareness. He'll dink and dunk you to death if you let him. He'll wait out the pass rush, buy a couple extra seconds, and hit Travis Kelce or Hollywood Brown or whoever else slips behind the defense. It doesn't matter who's on the field for Kansas City. Mahomes makes it work. The irony is that for all of Baltimore's injuries, Kansas City is slowly getting healthier. Mike Dana and Christian Fulton were back at practice this week. Xavier Worthy was a full participant after battling shoulder issues. Even without Rashee Rice, this Chiefs offense is rounding into form at the exact moment the Ravens defense is breaking down. Talk about timing. Reid and Mahomes are already masters at exploiting matchups, and this week they'll be looking at a depleted Ravens front, a confused linebacking core, and a secondary full of question marks. It's hard to imagine they're not licking their chops. And yet, the Ravens still have a shot. Why? Because of Lamar Jackson. Because when he's on, he changes everything. He doesn't need a perfect defensive line. He doesn't need a pristine pocket. He doesn't need a top 5 receiving core. He just needs space, a little time, a window. Because once he gets moving, once he starts finding rhythm, whether it's through the air or on the ground, he becomes the most electric player in football. And he's due for a game like that. The Chiefs know that, too. Their defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, is going to do everything he can to keep Lamar in the pocket and force him to win with his arm. Not because Lamar can't throw. He absolutely can. But because the moment he escapes, all hell breaks loose. You've got linebackers in space trying to chase a guy they'll never catch. You've got defensive backs torn between covering and crashing down. You've got breakdowns in discipline and containment. And Lamar feasts on those moments. But if Lamar's going to have that breakout game, he's going to need help. He's going to need the offensive line to hold up just a little bit longer. And that's not a guarantee. Ronnie Stanley hasn't looked like himself. Ben Cleveland's been inconsistent. Rookie Roger Rosengarten has had a brutal start to his NFL career, allowing 6 pressures last week alone. There are breakdowns at every level, and Lamar knows it. You can see in the way he moves in the pocket. He doesn't trust the protection right now. He's got happy feet, and it's messing with his timing. That leads to sacks, throwaways, or even worse, turnovers. And if there's one thing that's killed the Ravens early this season, it's untimely giveaways. Derrick Henry has fumbled 3 times in 3 games, including 2 in game-defining moments. Those aren't just mistakes, they're momentum killers. And you can't make those kinds of errors against Kansas City and expect to walk away with a win. That's why this game is going to come down to more than just scheme. It's going to come down to composure. Who blinks first? Who makes the mistake that shifts the momentum? Baltimore needs to find a way to flip that script. Because lately, they've been the team giving up the big plays, committing the costly penalties, losing the one-on-one battles at the line of scrimmage. And that's how you end up 1-2, looking for answers. There's also a psychological edge that Kansas City has had over Baltimore for a while now. Outside of that one win in 2021, the Chiefs have dominated the head-to-head series, and that wears on a team. The Ravens know what it feels like to come up short against Mahomes. They know how hard it is to slow him down when he gets rolling. So the longer this game stays close, the more that mental weight starts creeping in. That's why it's so important for Baltimore to start fast, not just on offense, but on defense too. Get off the field on 3rd down. Force a 3-and-out. Flip field position. Give Lamar the ball in good spots. Because if you fall behind early and the defense is already thin and reeling, that's when Mahomes will bury you. That's when Andy Reid starts digging into the playbook, pulling out the deep shots, the misdirection, the back-breaking screens. That's when the game gets away from you. And this isn't the type of game you can afford to let slip. Both teams are sitting at 1-2. Both teams were expected to contend. This game, right here, might shape how the next 2 months play out for each of these franchises. A win gets you back to .500, keeps you in the playoff mix, gives you a signature moment to build on. A loss? That's 1-3 with a broken defense and more questions than answers. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. In what is already being called one of the most audacious moves of the offseason, the Baltimore Ravens have reportedly secured the services of cornerback Sauce Gardner, sending shockwaves through the NFL community. Sources close to the situation suggest that the Ravens front office moved aggressively behind the scenes, pulling off a deal that could redefine the team's defensive identity for years to come. While official confirmation is still pending, insiders say that the buzz around the league is palpable, with rival teams left scrambling to process the implications. Gardner, widely regarded as one of the most talented and versatile cornerbacks entering the league, was long rumored to be a target for several franchises. His ability to read quarterbacks, lock down elite receivers, and make game-changing plays has scouts and analysts buzzing. The Ravens, known for their defensive pedigree, seem poised to elevate their already formidable unit into something truly dominant. The move has fans speculating whether this signals a larger overhaul of the defensive roster or if Gardner is the centerpiece of a new, fearsome strategy. The chatter on social media has been relentless, with many expressing disbelief at Baltimore's bold approach. Some pundits are calling it a masterstroke, while others warn that the pressure on Gardner to live up to such a high-profile role could be immense. Rumors suggest that the team sees him not just as a player, but as the new face of their defense, a leader capable of inspiring a locker room and reshaping the narrative around Baltimore's defensive schemes. While the NFL is no stranger to blockbuster signings, few have generated the kind of immediate intrigue as this one. The Ravens, it seems, are betting big on youth, talent, and charisma, hoping that Gardner's arrival sparks a new era of dominance. As speculation continues to swirl and insiders leak tantalizing hints, one thing is certain. Baltimore has just made a statement, and the rest of the league is watching. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.